really want to get through this board meeting, and I can get through this tax supervising and conservation commission part. Let's finish this up because I want to hear what they say.
So if you look at our existing portfolio, what can we do with what we have today to squeeze the asset or make these assets sweat differently to bring a better experience to in totality?
That's very perceptive of you. But how do you know that you're not a large department store on that path versus a Walmart or an Amazon on the other side of the path? I mean, how do you know where you're ultimately heading towards?
Well, I think personally, if we are having come from the retail industry, you're right. There used to be a great company called Blockbuster that doesn't exist now.
Exactly.
There's a history that's unfolding right now. I think we're a combination of also service and policy. So part of what we are part of the great news for us is we're at the intersection of the solution for reduction of greenhouse gases for this world and for our planet. So as vehicles come under more and more pressure, I believe there's a wonderful opportunity on the top tier group of how you get around in your life with mobility, of cycling, walking, and yes, public transportation. The board had great vision a few years ago. We moved ourselves from the mindset of just a transit authority to a mobility agency. How do we connect and remove the friction? So we have to come up with better products where you can enter, and we're doing a partnership right now with Visa and to get the FDA grants ourselves and other partners to come up with sort of plan, books, pay to remove the friction like retailing typically struggles with. And that's why online is dominating, because the frictions have been removed. It'll just arrive on our doorstep, I think, while we're actually having this conversation today.
Exactly.
And so I believe we have to remove passionately these frictions and fix products and reinvent on an asset base, but on a policy where...
See how I just love how he just goes on and on and on, but doesn't actually say anything. I mean, it's fucking amazing the talent he has for that.
This region's been a great vision to create an urban growth boundary. And in this urban growth boundary, we have to help advance policies that favor healthy choices of mobility over single congestion.
Healthy.
So we have to leverage policy in the back room to leverage our services on the front and our products to go with that. So you're right. We're going to have to fight harder.
It's such bullshit.
We have in the past to...
let me stop this and make a point here. This guy doesn't come from here. He comes from another country. He has no real connection to TRIMET. He's just here as an administrator. Whatever he's talking about doesn't make any sense, number one. Okay, he's just yakking because that's what he gets paid to do. He's here to administer the funds and make sure that money gets spent to the right places. That means, just like everything else in government, to the elites. Okay, as little as possible to the public and as much as possible to the capital projects elites. And he has no connection to this area, and he won't stay in this area. He'll go back to Canada. He'll be paid handsomely for his job as a technocrat and making sure that money keeps flowing to the right people. He's not saying anything that's of any use here.
Tilt the playing field for all those reasons to making sure we are relevant. Things like Wi-Fi go, okay, that works. I think you're going to start to see conversations like congestion pricing. When you start
congestion pricing in the middle of everything else. I mean, it's like a pipe dream. It's like all of that shit that was on the table. I mean, they're going to just try to move forward with it, of course, because the technocrats and the politicians and the elites, nothing that's happening in the real world is actually affecting them. All the shit that happens in the real world affects all the lower classes, and not them. They're just going to try to move forward with all of this same shit, and hopefully they can get away with it. And, we've already heard how the bondholders will be paid first. The bondholders will be the first people paid.
That tilts the playing field where people have ridden for free on the tax system, on the road system. I think you're going to see more conversations like that, not only here, but in other parts.
They're going to raise the taxes until finally the system's already collapsing, and we might see the collapse sooner than I thought. I mean, the real collapse, where you lose your pensions, you lose your Social Security, and you lose your bank account, and it's all worthless. That is going to happen. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit down the road, but things are moving a lot faster than I thought they were. And don't pay any attention to the stock market. That's a 100% fraud. Does not reflect anything but fraudulent activity. It's not real. It's gone to another. Since they've been printing money for them, it looks like it's doing well, but it's actually not. It's only because there's free money available that the stock market's up at all.
The world who's done that, and that allows people to make other value proposition choices of cost and services as well. So it's a complex subject, but it's one that the agency, I think, was a few years ago. We have a 5-year plan to get to those types of things, including how to drive ridership and increase the experience on top of policy changes.
It's so comforting to hear that you're thinking about these important issues.
What kind of do that? Every year we have the same meeting and they do the same dick sucking, I call it, where they suck each other's dick and tell each other how great they're doing. Or in this case, this is a Metro council here, and the Metro people, I've never heard them say anything but what a great job you're doing. Ever. It's always been this. You're doing such a great job. Thank you so much.
That's right. And one I would add here is also, and the board is going to talk about this later today, is transit-oriented development. This region, I believe, needs to become more assertive in its application of leveraging these amazing distribution channels of service that we have, a bus, train, or others. And leveraging
these amazing service distribution channels. We're going to leverage the service distribution channels. It's like he's a master at talking and saying nothing. It's amazing. It's amazing that I would never be able to do this. I can understand why they have to, get somebody like this costs a lot of money, because, bullshit, the bigger the bullshit, or the higher you move up in this system. That's why we have Trump at the very top, because he's the best bullshitter in America. And he's got 1/3 of the population fooled. And they are fooled, and they're going to find that out eventually, but they'll probably still stick with him. Just like a lot of black people still stick with Obama, even though he basically did absolutely nothing for the black underclass. It's disgraceful.
Our real estate footprints around the stations do not just spread this way, but we've got to go up, and to allow all types of people to live in those communities where they may in fact not need a car because the services work on their terms. Part of the strategy we embarked on several years ago was we can't get to transit-oriented development on a consistent, aggressive basis in this region around transit if we don't have on-time performance.
See, this is completely disconnected from the reality that's going on around him today. He's completely disconnected from it. He's talking about this like as if nothing's happening. Like there's no riots, there's no COVID, there's no 20 million people without jobs. He's just talking like it's just another day. It's like it's a farce, really.
That's really strong. So people.
Oh, and by the way, TRIMET never put this meeting up on their YouTube. I'm the only one that has it, and nobody's really look at this one here. This is the original that I put up. It's got 13 views. Nobody knows I have it because nobody knows I exist. I'm this little minor player out here.
To rely on us. So we moved literally a few years ago from when the average was 75% on-time performance for Mac for a whole month. Now we're actually over 90%. So we've come up over
and that's not real. I don't believe that.
Percentage points in our trust of the public.
Yeah, I don't believe any of this. This is just bullshit lies. As far as I'm concerned,
The bus systems moved from 80.1. We're now up in the high 80s on a public road network system. So we have to rewire ourselves internally, adding bus rapid transit lines, for reconfiguring, speed our system up, and provide a better experience. And part of the region's challenge, to be honest, is we have about a 4% transit modal share in this region, based on Metro's numbers in 2015. We've got to get to double-digit modal share.
Here, 4%. That's nothing. Okay, of all the people that are how they get around, 4% use TriMet. 96% don't.
So we actually have the products and the service and the frequency out there where people go, like smaller footprints like a London or Stockholm, which I visited with the governor this last fall. They're at 44% mobile share for transit. So we have got to move up.
Yeah, right. That's not going to happen.
The foundation will be a change of policy and culture, I believe, and with it will come the products.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Sure.
Kelsey, part of Chair Burns' question had to do with lowering riders.
I'm sorry, I apologize, Commissioner, you're cutting out. The others are hearing you, but I'm struggling a little bit. Sorry.
Mr. Behringer asked about luring riders back, and he talked about cash, and he talked about cops, as if we were talking exclusively about a rider like me, an individual person. But you mentioned the potential long-term effect of different workplace behaviors. And so my question is, in luring people, what is your outlook for the relationship you have with employers who provide annual transit passes for workers who now maybe are only going to be in the office one day or 2 days a week, who sell monthly passes in their places employment? What's your strategy for returning to employers as well?
Yeah, you could be asking a more timely question. This is literally unfolding as we speak, where many large employers are no one's escaping from this economic challenge we all have, including the large employers. And so we have an employer pass program, and they've been asking for changes to it over quite a number of months. So we're literally in discussions with them now around what that might look like. My own viewpoint is that without us also selling the farm, the service is valuable. And so in this environment, over the next year, we're going to have to put a program in place for the next year to get us through. And one of the commitments I've asked from my own team is I want to go back and strategically look at what the program of the future needs to look like. So for the longer term. So your question is timely. Don't have the answer for it other than what do we have to do in the short term to manage through that dynamic until we can get to a new relationship place. So I don't have that full answer right now. Bernie, I don't know if you want to jump in on this, that thing that I missed.
Bernie, you might be on.
Yeah, Doug, everybody's cutting out a little bit, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Lou? Yeah. I think Doug hit it pretty well. We need to be flexible and adapt to the reality that the employers are experiencing. There's two challenges for many of them. One is just the number of employees that have been furloughed.
TriMet is never going to get back that ridership, okay? It's gone forever. And they weren't getting that much ridership anyway, except during rush hour. And it's gone.
Laid off is not an ongoing situation. It's going to change over the course of the year. And typically we establish our big customers on an annual contract. So we'll have to find some way to be flexible around that. And then the other is that a lot more of their employees are telecommuting than they have historically. So reflecting that as well in how we put together our contracts with the employers is going to be important. So we're working through that negotiation right now.
Yeah,
Thank you. I did not really expect to answer Mr. Kelsey because of the speculative nature, but I appreciate that you're thinking about it because I think it's also a key for I think the workplace will look based on this experience. So thank you very much.
Okay, that's the end of our formal questions. Thank you all for your contributions to this discussion. I'll now check with Craig. Craig, does anyone from the public want to join us?
Okay. Now, this is brand new territory for us. We don't normally get a lot of public comment, but there are over 20 people signed up to listen.
Oh, okay.
I do not know how many want to speak.
One of them was
But
me.
if you would like to
Me.
speak, please click the hand raise icon that is somewhere on your screen.
And Craig, if I could just add to that, we have 3 people who can raise their hand within the WebEx meeting. We have another 21 that are on the phone only. If the people on the phone would like to raise their hand, the dial pattern for that is *9.
Nah. I don't need to talk to you. What's the point?
Okay.
Waste of time.
And Jeffrey, can you help me through this? This is a new experience.
Sure. So again, on your participant panel, at the very bottom is the attendee list. We have 2 attendees with their hand raised so far.
I see those.
And you have the ability to unmute them at this time.
Okay, so this is how we will do this.
Unmute him.
Time constraints are on us. We're way past our deadline here for this meeting.
What?
But I can speak for the commissioners. I know they would really like to hear from the public. But I have to ask you to keep it short, given the number of people who are waiting to speak, I think. So there are only 2 hands up. I will call on Lee Helfand right now. And Mr. Helfand, would you go ahead, please? Let me unmute you.
Unmute.
Okay, I'm hitting the unmute button, Jeffrey, and it's not unmuting.
Okay, let me help you with that.
Please, thank you.
Leader in technology. Jesus. Trump wants to declare anti-fire terrorist organization. Who fucking cares? Good for him.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you for taking my public comment. My name is Lee Helfand. I use they, them pronouns. I grew up riding transit in and around the Portland metro area, so a long-time rider here. I am extremely concerned, as many people are, about how Portland and my communities are going to be recovering from this pandemic and how folks are going to be getting around as we come out of the pandemic as well. I think it's pretty clear that TRIMET and transit agencies around the country have urged riders to stay off of buses except for essential trips, but I think as has been articulated earlier, the weight of that message definitely needs to be balanced by a clear communication plan. That our movement of the entire city depends on people riding transit once testing and a vaccine are available. I'm super concerned about potentially impending gridlock in the city. I know gridlock is something we've experienced before, but I think people are going to be extremely scared to be riding transit. I am nervous that there's not a clear communication plans, and I am extremely nervous that Wi-Fi has entered the discussion as part of a potential incentive to ride on transit, as opposed to thinking about how we can reduce fares, expand low-income ridership. And I think it's also been said that leaders and staff are focusing on low-income communities and communities of color, but I really question what the engagement has looked like. This national money is coming down to TRIMET. I don't know what a community engagement plan looks like in order to have a participatory, community-led process for how those dollars are spent. So I have lots of concerns, but I think what's clear is there needs to be a campaign to not only get ridership back up to where it was,
public that, especially in this time, you will not be enforcing fares. You're calling them fare informers, but I don't know that that's been widely heard by the community. I think folks are still under the impression that fares may be enforced, and I think it's more important than ever to put people before profit in this case, even though we do need to acknowledge monetary distribution. Please clearly communicate to the public that you will not be enforcing at least till the end of this year. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comment. Great. The next one?
Yes, the next person is David Daly, and I will try to unmic now. There. David?
Hi, Dave. Hi, it's Dave Daly. You can hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Dave Daly. I'm a member of the Advisory Council at Multnomah County. Yesterday, we had a special meeting of our council together with the Disability Services Advisory Council to talk about an item in the Policy and Planning Department's budget that has to do with the right source, right connection support. They've budgeted a very large decrease for ride connection services, and we're concerned because it looks, from what we can tell, that that was done without a lot of consultation with the Human Services community, in especially Washington County and Multnomah County. I'm not quite familiar with Clackamas, and consideration was not given to the fact that these ride connection services were designed to provide service to people who really have no other options. They do a lot of work out on the fringes of the TRIMET system, and those people don't have a fixed route option, they don't have a paratransit option, and if that service is taken away, they're going to have absolutely no way to have freedom of movement where they live.
Transit is effectively gone, okay? And right now, as I'm taping this, there's like, they're canceling transit because of the protests. They just cancel it. They just get rid of it completely. And you're stranded. Transit is effectively gone. It's not there anymore. People need to get this through their head sooner rather than later.
What we're asking, we know this is going to be a difficult period the next couple of years. We have the same problem at the county because we've got tons of very painful cuts to make in the coming months. But yeah, I think it's very important that we identify people who don't have any other option, and this is the only way we can actually serve them. And I'm asking the TRIMET, we submitted a letter to the board box as well. We're asking the TRIMET in this period before the budget becomes locked in stone, really take some time to assess the impact of that ride connection cut on these very vulnerable people, and to make sure that we're properly balancing their needs in this overall approach. That's what I've got. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would TriMet like to respond to any of those comments before we close the hearing?
Yeah, sure, I would. Thank you. I'll take the second one first, and I'll work my way back up to number one if I can. So, to the ride connection discussion, firstly, the budget is about $2.75 million. As I indicated earlier, we've cut back the rest of our transit system by about 20%. The impact here that we're talking about is about 18% reduction. We have some flexibility. We actually don't know what ridership is going to come back like. I don't think anybody knows, including Ride Connection or a paratransit service. So part of this is maintaining flexibility. If we put it in the existing agreement, then we may lose that flexibility. So we want to keep flexibility available to us across the palette of our services, not knowing the potentially significance of the ups, downs, sideways of where our economy is going to be, level of ridership. So we're looking at, right now, we're contemplating about an 18% lot of those are higher costs on your paratransit service than, say, a ride connection trip. But our fixed costs on paratransit, we have a lot of capacity to fill up there as well, as a primary source. So we'll be watching this and monitoring this when we go, and these will have to be adapted based on the severity of the economy and the uptick of demand and ridership. But to put the money in and just leave it there when we may in fact need parts of it for other parts of the organization,
like what?
I think would be
Capital
far
projects?
too restrictive at this point in time.
Capital
So I
projects.
think flexibility is going to be crucial here.
Yeah, right. And it's him making all the decisions, not us. He and his cronies are making all the decisions, and we have to live with it. There's no input. I mean, oh, here's your 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and that's that.
That's the first point. Sure. The second point I would...
And the ride connection, of course, are very low. That's on the class structure. We're talking about the class, like the elite class in TriMet would be the capital projects class. That would be the top class if you looked at this in a classism type viewpoint. The lowest class would be the lift, and I guess the ride connection would also qualify as the lowest class. So the low classes, as it always plays out in this society, always suffer, and the higher classes don't. As a matter of fact, the higher classes in the culture do better because all the money that's removed from the lower classes goes to the higher classes. This is how this country's structured. It's a predatory system with the top people feeding on the bottom people.
I think Mr. Helton, if I understood his name correctly, and he covered quite a lot of topics there. And so I'll try and talk about the ones I'm able to. The firstly is people afraid to come back on transit, and I think that's true. In fact, a survey recently showed that 75% across the country were nervous about coming back to transit. So it's not just here in the Portland metropolitan region. So this is one of the real underpinnings of at a time where funding is even the most precious state. We're actually investing in the clean. If people don't feel safe, in my opinion, even if you gave it away free, they're not going to come. And so part of this is really ensuring and doubling down on the investment of the cleaning standards, 4 hours or better, signage, putting signage on our seats that we'll be moving to requiring masks. Not only requiring masks, right, but we're actually going to provide. We're going to have, and I see sanitizers on a perpetual basis, actually, at the front of our buses. That is, you tap that smart card, put the hand pump, or however it's going to work. So everyone's going to have a role in the cleanliness of the environment that we have, not just the bus operators or our clean staff behind the scenes. So we're investing somewhere around $10 million more in funding across our system, and that's a target number for the 8 to 12, to ensure the system is clean for everybody. So that, to me, is the foundation of which we have to move these other things. The reference to Wi-Fi is only an example only, whether we do, but it gets to providing products and services to attract people that bring value to them and increase the experience beyond the transit trip. So that's going to work through our procurement processes and such like that. The goal is not for us to have to spend. The goal is to get third-party expenditures to actually write the check if we give them access to a whole bunch of other things of value that they may see. So we're working behind the scenes to look at concepts like that. The free fare conversation is a conversation. Personally, I'm of the belief there is no free. Someone has to pay. It comes out of one taxpayer pocket or another. So free is a relative thing. The user may be free, but if we look at HB House Bill 2017, the previous pre-COVID revenue stream was about $55 million a year. If we move to a free transit system, you're looking well over double that to pay for all the service, all the capital, and all the questions that the really great questions asked today. That's a significant amount of money. So someone is going to either have to generate that. It won't come from the fare box. That's just nowhere.
Wait a minute,
our procurement processes and such like that.
The
goal is not for us to have to spend. The goal is to get third-party conversation
Wait.
is a conversation. Personally, I'm of the belief there is no free. Someone has to pay.
All right,
It comes out of
here it is. The neoliberal argument. The fares are 15% of the cost of the ride. It's negligible. Yet, he says somebody's going to have to pay, but he doesn't offer. This is your neoliberal administrator at work here. Okay, they always use the same exact bullshit when it comes to the fares.
Taxpayer pocket or another. So free is a relative thing. For the user may be free, but if we look at HB House Bill 2017, the previous pre-COVID revenue stream was about, I think, about $55 million a year. If we move to a free transit system, you're looking well over double that to pay for all the service and all the capital and all the questions that the really great questions asked today. That's a significant amount of money. Yeah,
see, now he's going to take the money from the poorest segment of the population. This is where the neoliberalism is, okay? He's not considering the humans on the other end of this. He's seeing people as a source of income. Okay, he doesn't see them as people suffering. He's not willing to take the money out of the capital projects, out of the marketing, out of the all these other budgets. He's not willing to do that. He wants you to pay.
Going to either have to generate that. It won't come from the fare box. That's just nowhere close to being enough. Because the same folks don't want any fare increase, let alone they want it free. So at a time when the state has asked for reductions in their own budgets by up to 17.5%, I think that's going to be a tall order to get to free. And free doesn't guarantee ridership. I'm actually personally of the belief that, like the reference, when you've got a 4% total share, investing in more services for the same dollar versus free actually drives more ridership, giving people choices.
Yeah, he's just total neoliberal, anti-human. There's nobody there. You know what I mean? There's nobody home.
Actually, get people out of their cars who have a choice to drive or take transit or walk cycle. So I think that needs a lot of discussion in the community. Happy to have that.
Yeah, sure you are.
I know it's part of the youth pass is part of the T2021. Yes, right, Randy.
No, we just need I hate to interrupt because you're just saying so much that we want to hear, but we do need to move on and close this meeting out. So Dave, back to you.
Yeah, I was thinking we have to be done by 9:30. So thank you for your comments from the public, and thank you for TRIMET for all your excellent contributions to this meeting. And with that, I will close our hearing and open up a regular meeting of the TSCC and ask if any commissioner has any comments on the budget. If not, I'll ask the executive director to give his review.
All right, we've had enough of that. Okay, well, you see where they're at, right? It's all special interest transit. It's never going to be fare-free transit. It's the elites have control of your transit system, and they're not going to give you what you need. They're going to give themselves what they need, and that's what you see here.